Here, on the banks of the Danube River, overlooked by the Hungarian Parliament building, sit 60 pairs of iron, rusted, old-fashioned shoes. They sit on the edge of the water, scattered and isolated, as if they were abandoned here by their owners. This is the Shoes on the Danube, a memorial installed in 2005, which, according to the plaque surrounding the monument, is dedicated to the memory of the victims shot into the Danube by Arrow Cross militiamen in 1944 through 1945. On March 19, 1944, in response to Hungary's attempt to get out of the Second World War and withdraw its forces from the Eastern Front, Germany invaded Hungary and installed a pro-Nazi puppet government. By May 2nd, the first transport of Hungarian Jews arrived at Auschwitz. Between May 16th and July 7th, 1944, roughly 500,000 Hungarian Jews were deported from the countryside to Auschwitz. Most were sent to the gas chambers shortly after their arrival. Under intense pressure from Allied countries, Hungarian Regent Miklos Horthy ordered the deportation of the Jews to stop. They ceased temporarily until he was ousted in October of 1944 by Hungarian Nazis, known as the Arrow Cross, who began their reign by resuming deportations of both Jews and Gypsies. During their short-lived rule, death squads killed as many as 38,000 Hungarians throughout the country. At this site in Budapest, roughly 3,500 people, 800 of them Jewish, were shot from point-blank range and perished in the freezing waters of the Danube River. This terror lasted in Budapest until January 17, 1945, when approximately 80,000 Jews were freed by the Red Army. On April 4, 1945, Hungary was completely liberated, a little over a month prior to the German surrender that marked the official end of the Second World War in Europe. This history may lead you to ask if the memorial before you is a proper representation of the events that occurred here in the winter of 1944 through 1945. Historian Tim Cole's Commemorating Prior Landscapes is relevant in such an analysis. Throughout this work, Cole differentiates between the concept of place, a location with memory, context, and history, and space, a location without memory. It is difficult to determine where this memorial would fall. On one hand, if you possess background knowledge on the history of the Holocaust in Hungary, this is very much a place. However, without any kind of background knowledge, this memorial could certainly be viewed as a space because the plaques do not specify who exactly the Arrow Cross was. Hungarian Nazis who were assisted by Hungarian police and military units. In a time where the Hungarian state has yet to fully acknowledge their role in the Holocaust, and instead passes all the blame onto Nazi Germany and plays the role of victim, this omission from the memorial cannot be taken lightly. On a different note, Columbia University professor Mary Ann Hirsch discusses the concept of trace, a connection between the memorial and the referent that creates an emotional and bodily memory in her work, Surviving Images, Holocaust Photographs, and the Work of Post-Memory. Trace creates much more than a narrative. It creates a strong emotional reaction in accordance to the memorial. And although no monument can ever claim to represent the crime that the Arrow Cross committed here, the symbolic power of this monument must be noted. At this monument, we see these shoes on the banks of the Danube and associate these shoes with the innocent men, women, and children who were killed at the hands of the Arrow Cross. This leads me into my final point, which is that this memorial challenges the traditional Holocaust narrative because it is intersectional and gendered. It recognizes the Hungarian Jews' simultaneous positioning in different social categories. Intersectionality is important within Holocaust history because it helps us to better understand why certain individuals experience the Holocaust in a certain way. It illustrates that the Holocaust was not the same for everyone and differed depending on gender, class, race, religious values, and the like. Gender specificities are often ignored, forgotten, or omitted from the memory of the Holocaust. Historians Andrea Pacho, Louise Hecht, and Caroline Krauska focus on the importance of gender in the Holocaust in their work, Women and the Holocaust, New Perspectives and Challenges. The overwhelming perspective within the Holocaust narrative is that of the male, especially within Hungary, as there were more male survivors and artifacts after the Holocaust. If we fail to gender the Holocaust, it can run the risk of women being viewed only as objects of a subset of genocidal practices connected to their biological functions, such as pregnancy, motherhood, and sexual violation. This memorial should be considered both gendered and intersectional because it does make that distinction between gender by displaying both men's and women's shoes. Hence, the shoes on the Danube is an important piece in the modern-day interpretation of the Hungarian Holocaust experience. Therefore, it is essential that we act in accordance to this monument and the memories that it signifies.